So to be able to draw a portrait, to be able to draw anything for that matter, you need to understand structure. And structure is that underlying thing that causes the outward appearance of something to look the way it does. Obviously, when we're drawing humans and animals, there's a skeletal structure that sits underneath the muscles attach to it, the skin covers the muscles, and therefore everything is working in unity, and the underlying skeleton helps cause the muscles and the skin to do what they're doing. So when we draw from photographs, a lot of times we kind of overlook the structural issues. To draw anything well, you have to start with a sense of structure. I'm not going to get real anatomical here in terms of getting academic about the various bones and plates in the skull, the zygomatic arch, things like that. The overall idea is that you start with an understanding that there is structure there, and then there are certain proportions that are necessary to address. And the way everything is built results in how it appears. So we draw from a structural perspective, an inside-out perspective. And although in portraiture we're dealing with the outward appearance of a person, we still understand that that outward appearance is the result of everything that's going on that we cannot see. So generally speaking, there's some rules to follow and to keep in mind at all times. And these rules are things that as you are starting out, you have to think about. But once you become more experienced, they become ingrained or inherent in your thinking, and you don't have to think about the rules anymore. What you do is you use the rules, and you're thinking more about how to solve the visual problem that's in front of you. So just generally speaking, if we're going to start with a portrait of a person, we're going to start with something that's somewhat circular. And we're going to attach a jaw area onto it. So this is going to be the top of the head. This is going to be the base of the chin. The neck will come out sort of from the side of the head. It's a little behind the jaw. And the shoulders are behind the neck. So we divide the distance from the top of the head, not the hairline, but the top of the head to the base of the chin in half. And that's where the eyes sit. And this is if a person is looking at you straight on. If we figure the hairline at about half or slightly above that distance, that gives us the basis for the forehead and the brow area. Then we divide that distance in thirds. So from the hairline to the brow line, which is above the eye line, from the brow line to the base of the nose, and from the base of the nose to the bottom of the chin. So those are generally your proportions. Not everybody follows these exact proportions, so you have to look for the differences with each individual. But once you know how these are set up, then you can start looking for the things that are different from this standard order. The ear on either side will insert generally where the base of the nose is. And it will start at the eye line. So remember, the eye line, that's where the eyes actually sit, is halfway between the top of the head and the base of the chin. So the ears insert at the top about that point. And that gives you just a basic starting point and setup. So there's the ears. The mouth generally is going to be halfway between the base of the nose and the bottom of the chin. Some people are longer in this area, some people are longer in this area. So again, you have to look for those individual proportions and what things are doing. So the top of the head generally is fairly round, and of course the hairline is below. If we bisect everything with the center axis, so we use this crossbar, so to speak, then we have a understanding of symmetry or approximate symmetry in terms of the balance of the features. Generally speaking, the width of the eyes is about 1/5 of the distance from the side of the head where the ear inserts to the other side of the head. And there's usually an eye distance between. So first thing we do is look for these landmarks, if you will, or these proportions, and then we go from there. Ball of the nose be approximately there. Generally speaking, the flange, the side of the nose, will be higher vertically, higher in the vertical distance. A lot of people do noses that look kind of like this, and that's not generally the way they are. Generally, they are more like this, where the ball of the nose is going to be lower than the flange. And depending upon one's ethnicity, the width of the nose will vary. The main thing about the mouth that you want to consider is the opening of the mouth, not the upper lip or the lower lip. The first thing I always draw is the opening of the mouth, and that is the basis for me to lay in the upper lip and the lower lip. And then there's the ball of the chin. The eyes, the pupils and the iris, are actually sitting on a ball or a sphere. Of course, we can't see the sphere, but the sphere is very important to help us understand how the eyelids will wrap around the eye. So I usually look for the angle going from the outer corner of the eye to the inner corner of the eye. So what is this position versus this position? Sometimes this is higher on the outside, sometimes it's lower. I'll just right now make it straight across. And then the upper eyelid is always going to, unless the person is looking very surprised, the upper eyelid will always cover the top half of the iris. And even the bottom lid will cover some of the iris. Because of this axis, if we understand where this is, whether we draw it in or not, we can look side to side and kind of measure and gauge things on in relationship to each other. So basically, I'm just taking a horizontal line straight out there, and then a horizontal line over the top of the eye. We have the bridge of the nose, and you want to watch for where the bridge meets what's called the glabella, which is that kind of triangular area between the eyes. Sometimes that's lower, and sometimes it's very high. So the height of this and its position is going to give you the length of the nose. Then you want the top plane of the nose. underneath the eye. Now, one of the things, especially when drawing from photographs, because we don't always see it, is that there is a side to the head. So we can draw the head kind of flat like this and put the features on it, make the features dimensional. But the thing is, to really get the structure going, we have to understand what's happening on the side of the head. There is a plane, a structural plane that forms the side of the cheek, and it kind of looks like this. If you see images of people that are strongly lit, you will see this line very clearly. It's not that easy to detect when lighting is coming straight on. So in that case, what you need to do is acknowledge its existence. So that's one of the things that most people miss, especially if they've learned to draw from photographs. You can't get the dimensionality or the volume of the head without getting that break, that planar break. So we have the front plane, which is all of this right in here, and then we have the side plane, which right now I'm knocking back with some shadow. That gives us the ability to send the ears backward so that they sit, we understand visually that they sit on the side of the head and not right as the face ends. And this shadow also plays into what the brow line is doing, and plays a very integral part in shading. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some adjustments here. And I'm not working from any reference, by the way. See, the thing about structure is that you can actually end up drawing out of your head fairly easily if you understand the basic structure of something. Now, I haven't done the eyebrows yet because they sit on top of the brow. In other words, they're on the surface. Let's get underneath here a little bit. The neck will insert right about where the earlobes insert into this side of the jaw. Well, thanks for watching. This was an exercise to draw a head out of my head with no reference, and drawing just based on my knowledge and my ability at the time. So I want to leave you with some parting truths. To draw heads, faces, and anything for that matter effectively involves more observation, analysis, and study than expression. We should strive to interpret and translate form accurately, and there are principles that help us do that. And these principles govern form, shape, proportion, light, and shadow behavior, color, line, structure, direction, balance, perspective, and space. While I talk about structure and getting proportions correct as a starting point, It's up to us to notice how a person's features don't align with these general ideals. There are square heads, oval heads, round heads. Some people have more length in the jaw, and others have more length in the forehead and cranium area. So the structural guides shown in this video are just that, they're guides. It's up to you to pay attention, observe carefully, and look for the differences when you are drawing likenesses. And another thing is that I don't always get things right, and neither do you, and that's okay. When we pursue craftsmanship and the drawing process, we're more able to get these elements correct more often, and the person or thing we're depicting gains presence and personality. It emerges from the two-dimensional page. It comes to life on the paper. We won't always get it right every time. Drawing anything involves trial and error. Some of us draw with erasers on hand or make great use of the undo command if we're using digital media. I've learned, though, that mastering these elements and principles in order to draw well is a lifelong pursuit. So always be working to level up. Allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from them. Also, understand that drawing is not a right brain activity, it's a whole brain activity. It involves logic and reasoning. You have to observe, you have to analyze what you observe, you have to understand the parts of the form that you can't see from your particular point of view, and draw with them in mind. So my parting advice is to follow the steps I demonstrated in this sequence as a general rule. Begin with the whole thing, the basic shape, the larger simple shape, and then break that shape down into its various parts and sub-shapes, and then finish with the details. So in essence, start with the simplest and then add complexity. I'm Alvalyn Lundgren. Thanks for watching.